Have you ever been invisible in a room where you should have stood out? Maya Thompson knew that feeling all too well. She was the founder and CEO of one of the fastest growing fast food chains in the country. But on that particular day, standing inside one of her own restaurants, she was just another face in the crowd, ignored, overlooked, dismissed. She stepped through the glass doors, the familiar logo shining above her, reflecting the legacy she had built from scratch. Dressed in faded jeans, a simple gray hoodie, and well-worn sneakers, Maya blended in effortlessly with the lunchtime rush. But it wasn't the clothes that made her invisible. It was the assumptions people made the moment they laid eyes on her. A black woman, standing alone, with nothing to hint at her status. The restaurant was buzzing with activity, the smell of fried food mixed with the faint tang of disinfectant. Customers shuffled forward in line, scrolling through their phones or chatting with friends. Maya waited patiently, observing the staff with a quiet, sharp eye. At the counter stood Derek, a young man with slicked-back hair and an attitude as greasy as the fries under the heat lamp. He greeted the man ahead of Maya, a businessman in a crisp suit, with an enthusiastic smile and a cheerful, "Welcome in. What can I get started for you today?" His tone was warm, his body language open, but when it was Maya's turn, his demeanor shifted like a switch had been flipped. He didn't look up. His voice grew flat. "Next," he muttered, barely acknowledging her presence. Maya stepped forward, offering a polite smile. "Hi, I'd like—" Derek cut her off. "What do you want?" His impatience dripped from every word, his eyes finally meeting hers with a glance that carried no recognition, no respect. Maya's smile faltered slightly, but she maintained her composure. She placed her order, a simple combo meal, and stepped aside, noticing how his energy immediately brightened for the next customer, a young woman dressed in business attire. Derek's charm returned like magic, his laughter echoing behind Maya as she waited quietly. When her food was finally ready, Maya noticed it was wrong. Politely, she returned to the counter, pointing out the mistake. Derek sighed dramatically, rolling his eyes as if she were asking for the impossible. Without a word, he snatched the bag, corrected the order, and shoved it back toward her with a dismissive flick of his hand. Maya sat alone in the corner of the restaurant, her appetite overshadowed by a growing storm of frustration. She looked around, not at the decor she'd approved years ago, not at the menu she'd carefully curated, but at the people, the employees who carried the company's name on their uniforms, the customers who deserve better. How had it come to this? This wasn't just about bad service. It was about something deeper, a culture that had rotted from neglect, hidden beneath quarterly reports and profit margins. She'd built this company on values of respect, community, and integrity. But somewhere along the way, those values had been lost. The next morning, Maya returned, but this time she wasn't dressed to blend in. She wore a tailored navy suit, her natural curls framing her face with quiet confidence. She arrived before the restaurant opened, requesting a staff meeting. The employees gathered, some yawning, some scrolling on their phones. Derek stood in the back, arms crossed, his face indifferent. Maya stepped forward, her voice steady and calm. "Good morning. My name is Maya Thompson." She paused, letting the name settle in the room like a stone dropped in still water. "I am the founder and CEO of this company." Murmurs rippled through the group. Derek's face paled, his casual arrogance crumbling into something uncertain, something vulnerable. "I visited this restaurant yesterday," Maya continued, her gaze sweeping over the room. "Not as your CEO, but as a regular customer. And what I experienced was disappointing." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The weight of her words pressed into every corner of the room. This company was built on respect for our customers and for each other. But respect isn't something you turn on when it's convenient. It's not reserved for people who look important or dress a certain way. It's the bare minimum. Maya's eyes locked on Derek. He shifted uncomfortably, his confidence now a fragile shell. "Derek," she said, her voice softer but no less powerful. "Your behavior yesterday didn't just reflect poorly on you. It reflected poorly on all of us. Not because you didn't recognize me, but because you didn't recognize the humanity in front of you." She paused, letting the silence fill the space where excuses might have lived. "I'm not here to fire anyone," she added, "but I am here to hold us accountable. Starting today, We're going back to the values that made this company what it is, and for thoughts. Maya's unexpected visit became more than just an isolated incident. It ignited a ripple effect throughout the company. Word of the encounter spread quickly, not through official memos or corporate emails, but through whispered conversations in break rooms, text messages between employees, and posts on private staff forums. Some dismissed it as a PR stunt, a one-off event that wouldn't change anything. But for others, it planted a seed, a subtle shift in mindset, a realization that the person behind the brand wasn't just a distant name on a paycheck. She was real, and she cared. For Derek, the shift wasn't subtle, it was seismic. The days following the staff meeting were uncomfortable. The same counter he'd leaned on with smug indifference now felt heavier under the weight of self-awareness. Every customer interaction became a quiet test. Was he being genuine? Was he really listening? Or was he slipping back into the easy habits of disengagement? At first, Derek fumbled. His attempts at politeness felt forced, his smiles tight and unnatural, but something unexpected happened. The more he tried, the easier it became. Customers responded differently, not just with gratitude, but with warmth. Their smiles weren't just polite reflexes, they were real, and they made Derek feel something he hadn't expected: pride. Meanwhile, Maya wasn't just watching from afar. She visited other locations, often unannounced, observing, listening, and learning. She didn't arrive with a team of executives or a media crew. She came alone, dressed simply, blending in with the lunch crowd or slipping in during slow afternoons. Each visit revealed a pattern, not of malice, but of neglect. Employees weren't inherently unkind. They were disengaged, disconnected from the company's purpose because no one had reminded them why it mattered. Somewhere along the rapid growth, the heart of the company had been buried under policies, profit margins, and efficiency metrics. Maya knew change wouldn't come from memos or corporate slogans. It had to be personal. She launched a new initiative called the Core Project, designed to reconnect every employee to the company's original values. It wasn't about customer service scripts or forced enthusiasm. It was about empathy, understanding, and the simple power of treating people with dignity. Workshops replaced traditional training sessions. Employees shared their own stories, times they'd felt invisible, dismissed, or undervalued. For many, it was the first time they had been asked to reflect not just on their work, but on their humanity. Derek surprised everyone by volunteering to speak at one of the workshops. Standing in front of a group of employees from different locations, he recounted the day he'd dismissed Maya without realizing who she was. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly as he spoke. "I thought I was just having a bad day," he admitted. "But the truth is, I'd been having a bad attitude for a long time. I didn't care because I didn't think it mattered, but it does. It always matters." His honesty resonated more than any corporate training video ever could. He wasn't a polished executive delivering a rehearsed speech. He was one of them, flawed, learning, growing. As weeks turned into months, the changes became tangible. Customer satisfaction scores improved, not because employees were chasing metrics, but because they genuinely cared. Staff turnover rates decreased. Employees started taking pride, not just in their work, but in the culture they were helping rebuild. Maya continued her quiet visits, often sitting in the same corner booth with a simple meal, watching the transformation unfold. She didn't need to announce who she was anymore. It wasn't about recognition. It was about connection. One day, as she prepared to leave a bustling location, a young employee named Tasha approached her. She was new, barely 3 weeks into the job, but her eyes held a confidence that belied her short tenure. "I just wanted to say thank you," Tasha said, her voice soft but sincere. "Not for the job, for making this place feel like it matters, like I matter." Maya smiled, her heart full. "You do matter. Don't ever forget that." As Maya walked out into the bright afternoon, she realized something profound. She'd set out to change her company, but along the way, the company had changed her too. It reminded her that leadership wasn't about titles or power. It was about people. Months had passed, and what began as a ripple had grown into a wave. The company's culture had transformed, not through grand gestures, but through countless small moments stitched together by authenticity and care. Maya's name was no longer just an abstract figure attached to corporate emails or distant board meetings. She had become a living part of the company's fabric, not because of her title, but because of her presence. She had shown up, listened, and led with humility. One afternoon, Maya returned to the very restaurant where it all began, the place where she'd been ignored, dismissed, and overlooked. The familiar neon sign flickered in the sunlight, but the energy inside felt entirely different. Derek was there, working the register with ease. His posture was relaxed, his smile genuine. He greeted customers warmly, engaging in small talk that wasn't forced or rehearsed. The tension that once lingered behind the counter had been replaced with a lightness, an unspoken understanding among the team. Maya took a seat in the same corner booth, ordering her usual without revealing her identity. She watched as Derek helped a young employee struggling with an order. Instead of snapping or showing frustration, he patiently guided her, his voice steady and encouraging. After her meal, Maya stood up, ready to leave. But something unexpected happened. Derek noticed her. Without hesitation, he approached. "Hey, I just wanted to say, thanks for coming in. How was everything?" Maya smiled, recognizing the sincerity in his voice. "It was great. You're doing an excellent job here." Derek didn't recognize her immediately. But as she stepped toward the door, their eyes met, and something clicked. His expression shifted from polite professionalism to quiet recognition. You're Maya, aren't you?" he asked, his voice softer now, filled with something between respect and reflection. She turned, her smile warm but knowing. "Yes, I am." There was no awkwardness, no need for apologies or explanations. The moment spoke for itself, a full circle connection anchored in growth and understanding. Derek didn't stumble over his words. Instead, he nodded, a small, humble gesture. "Thank you for everything." Maya's heart swelled, not with pride, but with gratitude. "No," she replied gently. "Thank you." As she walked out into the golden haze of the afternoon, she realized that true leadership isn't about being seen. It's about seeing others. It's about creating spaces where people feel valued, not because they're perfect, but because they're human. And that's exactly what she had done. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness and growth can change everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that inspire.